Going, Going Green by Alexander Wolff. As global warming changes the planet, it is changing the sports world. To counter the looming environmental crisis, surprising and innovative ideas are already helping sports adapt. The next time a ball game gets rained out during the September stretch run, you can curse the momentary worthlessness of those tickets in your pocket. Or you can wonder why it got rained out and ask yourself why practice had to be called off last summer on a day when there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Global warming is not coming, it is here. Greenhouse gases, most notably carbon dioxide, produced by burning coal, oil, and gas, are trapping solar heat that once escaped from the Earth's atmosphere. As temperatures around the globe increase, oceans are warming, fields are drying up, snow is melting, more rain is falling, and sea levels are rising. All of which is changing the way we play and the sports we watch. Evidence is everywhere of a future hurtling towards us faster than scientists forecasted even a few years ago. Searing heat is turning that rite of passage of Texas high school football, the August two a day, into a one at night. While at the game's highest level, the Miami Dolphins, once famous for sweating players into shape, have thrown in the soggy towel and built a climate controlled practice bubble. Sports condition us to notice first those things that happen at scat speed. And until recently, climate change took place in world historical fashion, the way a soccer match unfolds. But that perception is changing fast, especially for skiers whose season has endured a whipsaw of extremes. One day in November, enough snow fell at Colorado's Beaver Creek to cause the cancellation of practice for the men's downhill at a World Cup event. A day later, on the other side of the globe, officials at the French resort of Val d'Isere called off another World Cup event on account of too little snow, as well as a forecast of prolonged warm temperatures. One of seven World Cup events in Europe this season to have all races canceled for the same reason. The U.S. Nordic ski team returned home early from the European circuit after a December race was rescheduled four times in 1 week. Indeed, the world's signature dog sled race, Alaska's Iditarod, hasn't begun at its traditional starting point in Wasilla since 2002 because of too little snow there. The Elfstedentocht, an 11-city skating marathon that the Dutch stage whenever the canals freeze over, has been run only once in the past 2 decades. The highest ski slope on the planet, Bolivia's Chacotaya, altitude 17,388 feet, will soon be unskiable for lack of snow. Meanwhile, backcountry skiing in North America and ice fishing in the upper Midwest are in jeopardy. Humans are accelerating global warming. We can at least minimize its damage, if not reverse it. By acting quickly, the two countries that emit most of the world's carbon dioxide, the US and China, might be able to avert that forecasted 5-degree temperature increase, slowing the rise of the seas enough to allow for the development of new technologies to redress the problem. What would it mean to act? Decrease the burning of fossil fuels, improve fuel efficiency, and conserve energy in our daily lives. The good news is that stadiums and arenas, if built with grain of forethought, can remind us that we're all in this together. Site 1 near a public transit line, and there's less need to build that most Earth hostile of features, the vast parking lot. The greenest ballpark in the country may be Fenway Park because only an idiot would try driving and parking there. Turbines mounted on upper decks would catch the same wind that plays whimsically with pop flies, turning it into the source of power to offset at least some of the energy demands of a ball game. Meantime, an eco consciousness is leaching ever so slowly into sports. You would expect environmental awareness among extreme sport athletes like the snowboarders and BMX riders who belong to the Action Sports Environmental Coalition, or from surfers whose vocation and avocation depend on the health of the seas. But less likely candidates are thinking globally and acting locally. NASCAR driver Ward Burton's foundation is pledged to habitat management, land conservation, and environmental education in his home county of Halifax County, Virginia. The Philadelphia Eagles may have some of the most discourteous followers in sports, but their management is a leader, having launched an environmental initiative replete with catchy slogans like Go Green and Time for some serious trash talk. The Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, is working with the NBA and Major League Baseball to help their teams get greener. Scientists told the NFL that Super Bowl XLI would put 1 million pounds of carbon dioxide into the air, not counting air travel to Miami. So the league planted 3,000 trees around Florida in an attempt to pull at least that much of the greenhouse gas out of the atmosphere. By going green, motorsports could have the quickest impact on public awareness of the planet's fate. The Formula One circuit has already discovered hybrids and biofuels, and Indy cars are mixing ethanol into their fuel. NASCAR is poised to phase out leaded gasoline, a neurotoxin. The Clean Air Act of 1970 included an exemption for race cars, even as the public was barred from buying cars that ran on leaded gas. It's only a short jump from a NASCAR driver with a raised consciousness to a NASCAR fan with the same. From his home in Ripton, Vermont, Bill McKibben, writer, activist, and passionate cross-country skier, surveys this disfigurement of the world as we've known it with as much melancholy as indignation. If I were a deeply moral person, I should be kept awake at night by the thought of hundreds of millions of Bangladeshis fleeing rising waters and dengue and famine, says McKibben, who's helping to organize a nationwide call to action on climate change for April 14th that will include iconic outdoor and sporting sites, Mount Hood and Key West coral reefs. But at some level, I feel this most acutely in the winter, when I realize I've had fewer and fewer chances to put on my skis. And therein may lie the great value of sports. What happens in an arena so familiar and beloved may sound an alarm we will hear and heed. At a time when so much in our lives is linear and digital, from the economy to technology, sports still run in graceful cycles, marking time and rhythm with the seasons. McKibben says, we're still so used to the idea that we could deal with the forces of nature that we think nothing of naming our teams hurricanes and cyclones. In 10 years, that will be like calling a team the plagues. 10 years. That's 2.5 Olympiads. Enough time for our teams and athletes to take the lead. galvanize attention, and influence behavior. When they do, per usual, may we cheer and may we follow. But as we watch, let us remember that this game is different. We don't have the luxury of looking on from the sidelines. We must become players too.